Devin Ratray, who you may know as Macaulay Culkin's bully of a brother, details his front-and-center role in Soderbergh's latest, the HBO drama Mosaic. In 2015, Devin Ratray got to experience what's surely every journeyman actor's fantasy, having a big-time director call out of the blue to offer a part, no audition necessary. At the time, Ratray was in California wrapping up a 3-month run in a then-new musical by the composers of Frozen. His agent told him Steven Soderbergh wanted to speak with him, but he didn't know why. Despite a resume filled with episodic TV, Supernatural, Law & Order, The Good Wife, Blue Bloods, and features Nebraska, Masterminds, Rough Night, Ratray, a show business veteran who's been working since he was 6 years old, and is now 41, is still indelibly etched in moviegoers' minds as Buzz, the bully older brother in the Home Alone movies who just wants to meet French babes. Now, Oscar and Emmy Award-winning director Soderbergh was calling to ask him to play Nate Henry, a state police detective in a wealthy Utah ski resort town investigating the murder of Olivia Lake, a famous children's book author played by Sharon Stone, in his new HBO series Mosaic, which begins airing on January 22. The whodunit follows lonely, man-eating Olivia as she first makes the play for handsome bartender and would-be illustrator Joel Hurley, Garrett Hedlund, and later, charming newcomer Eric Neal, Frederick Weller. Eric is a seductive scammer sent by local financier Michael O'Connor, James Ransone, and his fixer, Tom Davis, Michael Cerveris, to swindle her mineral-rich land. When she's presumed dead, Nate works the case alongside his police officer wife, Melissa Zandy Hartig. But he's steamrolled by his boss, Alan Pape, Beau Bridges, who is under pressure to solve the murder quickly, and Eric is the mostly likely suspect. When Eric's art restorer sister Petra, Jennifer Ferrin, shows up 4 years later, Nate gets to reopen the investigation. During that initial phone call from Soderbergh, Ratray was, to put it mildly, overwhelmed. "This sounds like a very important role," he recalls saying to the director, with whom he'd previously worked for 2 days on the 2013 film Side Effects. Ratray had also auditioned for Soderbergh's Cinemax period drama The Knick, unsuccessfully. He said, yes, it is, definitely. I said, why are you just offering this to me? He said, well, what are you going to do? A bad job. It was one of the most surreal moments in my life. I can't really say why he offered it to me, but I'm just eternally grateful that he did. Naturally, Ratray accepted on the spot. Clearly very fond of Ratray, whom he describes as sincere and very funny, Soderbergh nevertheless notes the actor's tendency to embellish. He remembers Ratray's Side Effects work as 2 lines, not 2 days' worth. Still, he also recalls being intrigued by the actor's interesting rhythm and way of presenting lines in a montage sequence. So unbeknownst to Ratray, the Logan Lucky director made a mental note about him for the future. As for his Knick audition, Soderbergh says he simply didn't have a role that was right for Ratray. On the other hand, when casting Mosaic, a confluence of events worked in the character actor's favor. Soderbergh had recently seen a detective in a true crime drama. He loved the genre, but can't remember which one he was watching, who reminded him of Ratray, both in his effect and appearance. Around the same time, he also saw Blue Ruin, a 2013 indie film in which Ratray was terrific. When Sharon Stone agreed to play Olivia, HBO gave Soderbergh carte blanche on the remaining cast. That's when he reached out to Ratray with the plum part. With only a brief plot sketch and his own scenes to study, the actor reported to the Park City, Utah set a month later. There was a shroud of secrecy throughout the project, he says. I had no idea to what extent Steven would be involved. Of course, he knew I was directing. Soderbergh says, laughing, he also hadn't a clue about who he'd be working with, or that he'd later decide to use a 2+ month break in filming to lose 25 pounds, so Nate would have a distinctly different look for portions of the story that take place 4 years earlier. The present-day material was shot first. I went from doing this incredibly imaginative, crazy musical, to doing the most serious, intense, dramatic work I've ever done, he says. His idiosyncratic turn as Nate is particularly notable among an impressive ensemble that also includes Paul Reubens aka Pee Wee Herman as Olivia's confidant, and Fargo's Allison Tolman as Eric's lawyer. So is this the beginning of a Ratray renaissance? Soderbergh certainly thinks the underused actor has a lot of range, and placed the consummate professional on his pocket list of go-to people. I know if I hire him, I can stop worrying about the part, he says. If nothing else, this updated version of Ratray should replace visions of him in Home Alone, which until now has been his career-defining role, and that would suit the actor just fine. If my crowning achievement in my chosen profession happened when I was in the 8th grade, I would consider that a failure of sorts, he says, making sure to indicate he appreciates his time in the kiddie classics, but is also ready for more dramatic roles. Before Mosaic, I was cut from a scene in Baywatch, and in Rough Night. I enjoy the comedic roles, and can do them without much effort. But to be challenged like I was in Mosaic is, without sounding too cheesy, the singular most rewarding thing in my life, he says. Nevertheless, up next you can see Ratray in the second half of Amazon's superhero spoof The Tick, where he plays a character called Tinfoil Kevin.